Hey Hawks and Falcons, Mr. Wouda here with another tech tidbit video, the first one of the 2021 school year. And the question that we're asking today is the pen mightier than the sword? Okay, well, not actually the sword. The question is the pen mightier than technology? See, I've noticed that I've used less technology this year than last year, and so I wanted to see if that was true across the school. So I headed out into our beautiful hallways and corridors and asked some students and teachers. Hey Hawks and Falcons, Mr. Wouda here with some awesome grade 7 students from Hadley, and we're going to talk a little bit about technology today. I've got with me Connor, Amir, and Cami, and they're all going to talk to us about their views on technology in school. Amir, I'll start with you. What was technology like for you last year in school?
It was pretty, maybe a bit popular. Well, last year we put it on pen and paper, but sometimes we'll do it on Teams and all with that technology.
Have you found that your teachers are using a lot of technology in your classes, more than last year, less than last year, or about the same? Cami, I'll start with you because you look like you're freezing and I want to get you out of here.
I am freezing, but here I would say that they don't use a lot of technology. Only if it's like if the teachers are doing some type of Kahoot, or they're making us do online assignments or just to check things or download apps. Usually they do it pen and paper.
Okay, as Connor landscapes the courtyard here, I'll turn to him. What about you? More technology this year? What are your teachers doing with you?
It's pretty interesting for me because I don't have a phone, so it's mostly for me pen and paper, or I'm using the classroom laptops, but I find it's less than last year.
You have the option. I'm giving you an assignment. You can either write it using a pen or with pen and paper, or you can write it on your phone or a computer. What do you prefer to use, pen or paper or technology? Cami.
Pen and paper.
Amir.
Technology.
Connor.
Well, they're both pretty nice, but I'd prefer to use both because I'm special.
There's always one who has to answer it a bit differently. But thank you so much for your time today, guys. Really appreciate your thoughts on this subject matter. And Mr. Wouda, we're back to you. Austin, thanks for being here. My question is, have you used your technology, your phone, your computer for school the same as last year, more or less than last year?
I use it less this year because COVID's not as bad this year. I find we don't use it as much.
So in your classes, have you found that the teachers have been using technology less to teach you as well?
I find, they're using them less. It's more like on the board and everything.
Mr. Wouda here with Callum Bender, a grade 10 student, and we're talking tech. Callum, have you noticed that you've used more technology than last year, less technology than last year, or about the same?
I would say far less technology, which not super stoked about. I was a big fan of being told to go on my phone and do some kind of Quizlet or something. There's some classes like science where it's remained about the same, but overall I think the tolerance for technology has gone down a lot.
All right, so I am here with Dylan Berg, grade 11 student. So this year compared to last year, have you been using your technology for educational purposes more, less, or about the same?
For educational purposes, definitely less. I find whenever, on the odd occasion I go on my phone, it's to check either the time, who's texting me or something like that. It's not really to check Teams or anything like that. Whereas last year, I would often go on Teams to check what the assignments were, what the stuff were. So yeah, it's definitely less in my book.
So teachers then, of course, are probably using technology less in the classroom. Have you noticed that's a big shift as well? The teachers are going back to paper and pen versus using online assignments?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think I've seen one laptop in the classroom this whole year, and I really liked seeing that last year because I found it made things a lot easier, a lot more organized. It's all back to paper and pen, which it's the classic method, but I prefer the laptop for sure.
I've got two wonderful grade 9 students with me here today. I've got Olivia and Angie. They're going to answer some questions. And the first question I have for them is, have they found that they've been using their technology less than they did last year? We'll start with Olivia. Have you used your technology less than last year?
No, not really, because I have an IEP and I just use it regardless, because I can't write by hand anyway.
Yeah, awesome. So obviously for IEPs, which many of us have in the school, tech is a huge part of that. Angie, what about you?
I have not used my phone more. Like last year, I used it more than this year. Yeah.
Do you wish that you saw more tech used in school today, Olivia?
Yes.
Angie?
No.
All right, we got a yes, we got a no. What a diverse school we live in. So thank you, too, for joining me in this interview. Back to you, which is also me. And I'm talking with Mr. Leach, teacher extraordinaire, and we're talking a little bit about tech in the school. So I just have a couple of questions for Mr. Leach. And the first one, of course, is how do you grow such a beautiful beard? No, I'm just kidding. How have you been using technology this year? Have you found that you're using Teams in Classroom to organize your classroom still, or have you gone back to more a way of teaching that existed before the pandemic?
Given the fact that I teach 14 different groups, I've gone back to using, I'm continuing on from last year. So most, I would say 95% of the work that I do with my students is going to be done online on Teams, primarily because it's easier for me to organize, and it's also easier for my grade 7s and 8s to keep themselves organized, and everything is just there all year. Nothing gets lost.
Awesome. So obviously now that we're back in the classroom, we can use pen and paper tasks again that we haven't been able to use in the previous year. Have you noticed that students prefer to use pen and paper, or do they prefer to use the computer, or are they kind of open to whatever it is you ask them to do?
That's a good question. It's a little bit early in the year even to determine that. Most students seem to be interested in just getting the work done, if they choose to do the work, of course, and they're happy to do it on whatever platform is available. So we started this year with some pen and paper tasks, and those were done, and now we've slid into Teams, and students seem to be working at that as well.
Okay, so this is kind of the big question then. Now that we're sort of moving forward, we maybe don't need to use technology as much now that we're back in the building full time. What do you think is the educator, the teacher's responsibility in using technology in the classroom?
I think there's several approaches. The number one thing, of course, is being safe and protecting your own privacy online. But I think the other part too that we sometimes forget is that the phones that we use, that so many of us use, are fantastic. They're super fun for entertainment and for communication and social media and so on. But they're also super powerful computers, and they can be used as word processors. You can get all your work done on it. I do my marking on the phone sometimes. So it's nice to know that there's more to the phone than simply the entertainment aspect. And as I sometimes tell my students or remind them that the phones that we use pretty much every day are more powerful computers than what they used to put the men on the moon in 1969. So I think it's important that they understand that their phones can do way more than most people recognize.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Leach, for answering those questions about educational technology in the school. And maybe the pen might not be mightier than the sword or technology, but at least we'll keep trying. Back to you, Mr. Wouda. All right, so I am here with Grace, Haley, and Zoey, and we're talking tech, as we do. So my question to you, and I'll start with you, Grace. Have you noticed that you're using more tech this year, less tech this year for school purposes, or about the same? And how do you feel about that?
Purposes?
Like school purposes.
Okay, so I'm definitely using less technology this year than last year, because last year everything was pretty much virtual. I don't think I turned in like one physical assignment.
Haley, same question. We're using tech differently this year, not as much as last year because of the whole hybrid thing. Have you noticed that it's a bit less? And if so, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's less.
And how do you feel about that?
Great.
So you prefer using more paper pen tasks than technology?
Because I don't like writing on my phone because it hurts my eyes.
Zoe, same thing, same question. How do you feel about tech in the school today?
Well, it's like what Haley and Grace were saying. It's less than it was before, but yeah. But it's fun handing in paper and actually writing because it's not like it was just last year, and last year was just boring writing all the time online, and it would hurt my eyes a lot.
You're given a choice to complete an assessment. Doesn't matter what course it's in. You're given the option to do it pen and paper or to do it using a computer or a phone. So would you go with pen and paper or the technology? Grace?
I prefer working on a computer because it's actually just easier to organize my work, I find, than a bunch of papers. So probably phone/computer.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Haley?
I think it just depends on the amount of words. If there's it's just a page or two, then just on paper it would be fine. But if it's really, really long, it would be typed.
Okay, awesome. Zoe?
Just like Haley said, if it's a long assessment, I have to write a 500 word story, I would use online. But if it's like an easy, like just write it down on a paper, then yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me for this interview. And back to you, Mr. Wouda, with Liam Redl. And he's a grade 11 student. So he, of course, went through a year and a half of hybrid learning. And so maybe has a unique perspective on technology in the school. Do you use your phone or computer more or less than you did last year for school purposes?
I'd say I use my phone and computer a lot less this year than last year.
Do you kind of like where we're at now? Pen or paper versus computer, what do you prefer?
I liked using my computer a lot for school because I found it made it easier to stay organized as everything's just in one place. And yeah.
Hey Hawks and Falcons, Mr. Wouda here with Mr. Sancescu. Hey, and I got that right. And we're here talking about tech and the school and our role as teachers using tech in the school. So I just got a couple of questions for you. The first of which is we are back in school. So maybe your use of technology has changed from this year to last year. So last year you had to organize your classroom on Teams or Classroom. Are you still organizing your classroom on Teams or Classroom? And if so, how's that going? And if not, how has it changed?
Great. Do I grab this?
Go for it.
Perfect. So I'm still using Teams in the classroom, just as a way to organize the notes, the material, and to help students to keep track of what they have to do, what they have to submit, and what important dates are coming up next. And to be honest, before the pandemic, I was already planning on getting that set up. So no changes for me. It's really used as a planning tool, and I will continue using it.
So now that we're back into sort of normal school, quote unquote, the question now shifts in terms of using technology as to what is our job as teachers in using technology in the classroom. So some teachers I've talked to, they've kind of seen their job is to sort of help students stay away from technology, get off those phones, read a real book, write on pen and paper. Other teachers say, no, I've got to show them how to use technology appropriately. Where do you fall in that sort of, what's your role as a teacher in terms of using technology in the classroom?
I'm somewhere in the middle. I don't think it's either black or white. It's always gray. I think it's our responsibility to show students how to use technology, show them new ways to use technology for educational purposes, obviously. But I don't want them to be using it consistently. I don't want students to be doing homework or studying using just technology. I do think that pen on paper or pencil on paper still has its place in the classroom. I've seen students on their phones during lunch, during break. I do not want to add more screen time to their daily routines. Plus, some students just don't have those devices available at home, so I don't want them to be forced to use a device of sorts. That being said, I do like the idea of having projects or special learning activities that show students what can be done with technology, specifically how to use a keyboard. That I think is missing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing that they're so great at using your phones. And you really are students. You're wizards at using your phones, but that they're using the old-fashioned computer is maybe something that's a bit lacking these days. So another voice arguing for balance in the use of technology. So the question of, is the pen mightier than technology, remains to be answered. But I do think, based on these interviews that we've been able to have today, that we do know that everyone here is interested in at least continuing that discussion. And I look forward to continuing that discussion with everyone here at Hadley and Philemon this year. All right, so a big thank you to everyone who was interviewed for this question, is the pen mightier than technology? And wherever you fall on that issue, it's always good to know that technology is around to help us out when we need it. And so here's just a quick reminder of how you can access your Office 365 information if you haven't done so already. First, talk to your homeroom teacher. They're going to have your email and password information. Next, be sure to sign into Chrome on whatever computer that you use the most regularly. So if it's a home computer, open up Chrome, create a new account, and sign in using your Office 365 info. That means everything will be signed in for you, your Teams, your Office 365, and your Google Classroom. And finally, spend some time exploring all the different educational apps that you have available to you as a WQSB student. So check out Microsoft PowerPoint, check out Microsoft Word, check out Google Slides, check out Sway and Microsoft Project, and all these great things that you can use to help you be a better and more technologically advanced student. Thanks again to all of you for watching, and until next time, have a great day, Hawks and Falcons.